In today's video, I'm sharing with you 5 knitting patterns that I've recently found inspired by photos of 3 skeins of gorgeous 100% mohair yarn submitted by Marianne, asking the question, what should I make with this? Hello, and welcome to the Wool Needles Hands Knitting Podcast. My name is Taylor, and I will be your host. Today's video is part of a series that I like to call What Should I Make With This?, where viewers submit to me via email photos of yarn that have been sitting in their stash for quite some time and that they simply don't know what to make with. They give me information about the yarn and information about their knitting or crochet or making preferences, and then I dive into Ravelry or wherever, scouring the interwebs for ideas and inspiration of projects that they can make with their yarn. And today is a submission from Marianne, who provided me with a photo of some gorgeous 100% mohair yarn. Now, the way that this video works is that I share with you the 5 patterns that I've found inspired by this person's yarn and the preferences that they've laid out in their email to me. I might even dive into the fiber content and give a little bit of background about that particular kind of yarn, just so folks have a little bit more of an idea of what is special about that fiber, about that particular type of yarn, making them even more informed makers in the process. All of the information that I gather for this, I place in one spot called a Milanote. This is a platform online. It's kind of like a note-taking place where you can compile notes and links and photos all in one place. I am not sponsored by Milanote. I just use this platform, and whenever I do these what should I make with this videos, I like to compile all of that information into these particular note boards, if you will. Links to these Milanotes will be available to everyone over on the Wool Needles Hands Patreon. You can head over there and join the Patreon for free. There are things that are available to free members over there. However, if you would like to help further support the Wool Needles Hands channel and have access to additional content like chat threads and additional update videos, you can become a paid member to that Patreon for $5 a month, and it greatly supports the work that I'm doing here at the Wool Needles Hands channel. Thank you so much for the additional support. Okay, links for all of that can be found down below the video, and I am ready to get into it. So here is a photo of Marianne's yarn. You actually see here 2 piles. She has a pile here of sport weight mohair, and she also is showing a little pile of worsted weight mohair. I'll be reading to you a portion of the email that she sent, but for today's video, we're just going to be focusing on the sport weight mohair that you see here, which if you're looking at this photo, they are the 3 skeins on the left, are beautiful and have a really lovely contrast between the 2 colors, and they are the natural colors of the yarn. I'm going to read to you the portion of the email that she provided to me, which is what kind of gave me a roadmap as I was curating the patterns for today's video. It says, I thrifted this yarn in the spring. It's from the Old Creamery Woolen Mill in Minnesota, which I can't really find any info on. I've been hanging on to it because it's so lovely that I want to use it for something special. It is a 2-ply 100% mohair goat yarn, and it's absolutely some of the most luxurious and soft yarn in my collection. Not at all itchy. I want to make something with it that will really let the yarn shine, but looking for 100% mohair patterns on Ravelry has only brought up patterns using fluffy mohair silk blends. I'd love to get your take and also hear your subscribers and patrons' suggestions. I'd also love to learn more about goat mohair yarn if you had any tidbits to share, as I am a relatively new knitter, 18 months, who hasn't delved too deeply into the history of mohair. I also want to mention, and I didn't add it here, that she did say that she, even though she's a rather new knitter, she has learned a lot of different skills, building up her knitting skill base, and so not to shy away from anything more complicated because she feels that she is confident she can tackle kind of anything at this point, which I think is awesome. Also, too, something I didn't mention here, she did talk about wanting to find accessories. She doesn't want to knit anything for the feet, but other than that, she really loves to knit accessories, kind of for like the shoulders up, and even mittens, fingerless mittens and mittens. And so I kind of kept that in mind when I was searching for patterns for Marianne, knowing that she didn't want socks or slippers. She didn't mention anything about garments, and obviously she doesn't have a lot of yardage here for garments. And so we focused on accessories for the hands, for the neck, and for the head. And that's kind of where we're going with this today. Okay, before we dive into these patterns, I do want to talk a little bit about mohair here to provide Marianne with a little background on that, but also for you folks as well who might be curious about this really amazing fiber that we hear so much about, especially in the context of silk mohair and lace weight mohair being paired with other wool yarns. I want to share a little bit about this particular fiber, especially since Marianne's yarn is 100% mohair. It is not a mohair silk blend. It is 100% mohair 2-ply sport weight. Mohair is known for a unique blend of qualities. It's soft, it's strong, and it has an eye-catching luster. Plus, it has natural elasticity, making it great for all kinds of knitting projects, from socks to garments to shawls. It's resilient and it doesn't lose its shape over time. Mohair is rather lightweight, however, it's incredibly insulating, so it's a fantastic fiber to use for really warm and cozy items. And because of the long staple length of the mohair fiber, almost being like a really soft, hairy fiber, if you will, it has a really gorgeous halo that we've all come to know and love about mohair. That really lovely fuzzy finish gives any garment knit with mohair a nice, fuzzy, ethereal type of look. Mohair fiber comes from the Angora goat, and it's confusing. You mentioned that it comes from the Angora goat, and people wonder why it's not referred to as Angora. Well, Angora, in terms of the fiber, is what we refer to a particular fiber that is produced using the fleece of an Angora rabbit. Mohair, on the other hand, is a fiber that is used from the fleece of an Angora goat. Angora goats are shorn twice a year, and they produce about 4 to 5 kilograms roughly of mohair per year. Top quality mohair in both its durability, its strength, its elasticity, its luster, and its softness is all very closely tied to the well-being of the goat. And if goats are mistreated or not taken care of properly, the quality of the mohair is greatly diminished. And this is really important when it comes to the animal husbandry of the Angora goat and the proper care and maintenance of Angora goats when it comes to producing fiber from them that is then used to produce clothing, especially if we're talking about those that are produced on a mass scale. I have linked to some information down below about sustainable practices that are now being used when it comes to keeping and maintaining mohair goats, and so you can find more of that information there. A really great way to ensure that you are sourcing mohair or purchasing mohair yarn from places that are employing these sustainable practices and are treating their goats humanely and with care is by shopping small, finding small scale production operations, sourcing small. Honestly, the smaller the farm, the more you can bet that those animals are being taken care of. Those animals are an asset and an investment, and it is in the best interest of everyone involved to take care of those animals and treat them to the highest possible standards. The pendulum is really swinging that way, and it's not just about Angora goats and mohair, it's really about everything. The smaller you source, the higher quality you can expect, and I think it's really important to kind of go forth as a consumer thinking that way. Okay, so now that we got the nitty-gritty of mohair out of the way, I do want to dive right into some patterns that I think would be fabulous knit with Marianne's yarn. Now keep in mind, Marianne is using yarn in its natural shade, and I think that is beautiful. I love the natural colors of fleece and fiber, and I think it's really important to celebrate that whenever possible. I love color, I love dyeing yarn, obviously, but I do love taking a moment to step back and really just embrace the natural hues of these beautiful fibers out there, and Marianne is definitely doing that with these lovely yarns. Now you'll see here, she has two contrasting colors. She has a lovely natural gray and a lovely natural ecru cream color, if you will. I was looking for patterns that incorporated both of these colors. I wanted to make sure that because we're focusing on the sport weight here, that we were looking for patterns that would use up most of everything that she had. I'm sure she'll have some remnants left with the designs that I've curated here. However, it would be nice for her to be able to use all of that yarn as much as possible. So let's go ahead and dive into the first pattern that I have in mind for Marianne's yarn, and that is one that I have eyeballed before for myself that I think is absolutely gorgeous. And this is the Guthrie hat by Caitlin Hunter. Now, this hat almost feels like, when I look at the breakdown and the specs for this particular pattern, like it was meant for this yarn. So Marianne's yarn, like I said, is a sport weight yarn. It is 2 colors here. And if we look at the Guthrie hat here, you can see that it is knit. It looks like it's being knit with multiple colors, more than just 2. But actually what's happening here is she is using one solid background color and then a contrasting color of Spin Cycle yarns, which is a yarn that is spun with multiple colors of plies, so the colors kind of radiate out in these gorgeous gradients. So otherwise, she is using 2 different colors of yarn here, or 2 colorways, if you will. I love this hat because I love the motif. I also really love the shape of the hat because it's a little bit more oversized, and I feel like sometimes color work hats like this tend to fit, I don't know, they're either kind of cone shaped or they fit a little tighter than I would like, but I really love the slouchy nature of that. Maybe that's what it is. I feel like you don't find a lot of slouchy color work hats, or at least I don't, in a motif that I really love. It uses anywhere from 166 to 226 yards of yarn. And I know that Marianne has, okay, so each skein of Marianne's yarn is 150 yards. So she has 450 yards altogether. So she has plenty of yarn to make this hat, which I think is perfect. So this is my first choice for Marianne's yarn, is the Guthrie hat, a really classic shaped, somewhat slouchy colorwork hat, and in the really lovely, more muted tones of what she has there with the natural gray and the natural ecru. I think this could be something really special because she has 2 skeins of the gray and 1 skein of the white, and I think that would be gorgeous. Having the gray background with the white motif, it would be absolutely lovely. So I think this one is a fantastic start. So this is the Guthrie hat by Caitlin Hunter. Okay, this next design I have never seen before, and I stumbled across it when I was doing this, and I'm so excited for it because I think I would absolutely love to knit this. This is called the Mini Nata by Moskenfine Berlin. I apologize, I'm probably mispronouncing that, but this is a really gorgeous little bandana shawl. It's the perfect size as a little tiny neckerchief or bandana, and I love the graphic nature of the stripes here. This is just so absolutely beautiful. I love it. And I feel like in the natural colors that Marianne has with her yarn here, this would be stunning. Now, if I go down, it shows that you're using 2 skeins of yarn for this, and each skein only contains 120 meters. So she would have plenty of the yarn that she has available to her to knit this little bandana. I think it is so lovely. It's so beautiful. It uses this interesting slip stitch technique, and I'm not sure if it's mosaic knitting here. It doesn't mention it. It says, for the 10th anniversary of Moskenfine, the Moskenfine Classic Hinata is available as a small scarf version. Thanks to a modified algorithm in the increases, Mini Nata has significantly less depth than its big sister. With the new instructions, the huge cuddly shawl becomes a small companion for every occasion. I want to see this other bigger version. In the familiar Hinata pattern, triangles of slipped stitches alternate with triangles knitted in garter stitch. Not only does the direction of the stripes change, but also the stitch density, which gives the design its special look. I love this. I want to make one of these. If I had, I have sport weight yarn. My Born, Shorn, and Dyed collection, what I'm using to knit my fleece sweater is sport weight, and I know I'm going to have some left over. I want to make one of these. I love this. So this is the Mini Nata, and I think it would be absolutely beautiful in those 2 colors of yarn. This, yes, I absolutely love this. How cute is that? Seeing her wear, it's adorable. I absolutely love this. How many times have I said that? Yes, this is a €5.90 pattern. I didn't mention the price of the first one. What is it? The first one, the Guthrie, was $5. Sorry, okay, I'm all over the place with this. I absolutely love it. So that is coming in. It's a strong number 2 for Marianne and her gorgeous mohair yarn. Okay, we're moving down to the hands for this next one. I love these. Now, I have to preface this by saying, I don't have to, but I'm going to. I don't tend to find a lot of color work mittens that I'm really drawn to. Okay, so I love what I'm looking at, but I don't tend to love it enough to want to make them for myself, unless of course it's something really special. And I feel like these really hit that mark for me. These are the Shine Mittens by Sofia Capelli, or Sofia Capel, and I believe that she is the host of the Kamembornia podcast. They are Swedish. They host their podcast out of Sweden, and it is the most beautiful, just cozy, aesthetic knitting podcast. I absolutely love it. These mittens are gorgeous. These are a sport weight yarn, sport weight mitten. They use 230 to 317 yards of sport weight yarn. And the yarn being used here, she calls for 50 grams of color A, 50 grams of color B. Marianne has this with the yarn that she has, and she would have a little bit left over. It says here that Shine is a mitten made in stranded knitting with Latvian braids on the cuff. I wanted to design a mitten in Swedish wool inspired by traditional patterns. Mittens in these kinds of patterns used to be knitted on very thin needles. In that way, they become durable and warm. The pattern also looks better when tightly knit so that you can use more stitches. I knit my mittens in a Swedish wool yarn on 100 grams on 2.0 millimeter needles. And I think that they're beautiful. And again, I think there's something about the idea of using the natural colors here and the way that they would contrast beautifully and those lovely traditional Latvian braids. I just think it's a full package of traditional style. It's the style of the mitten itself. The shape of the mitten is very traditional Scandinavian mitten style. And then you have those Latvian braids on the cuff there. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I feel like if you have a yarn that is a special yarn, it's a natural yarn, it's natural colors, something really traditional like this can be very beautiful. So I'm rooting for these as well, honestly. I'm not sure, I haven't chosen an absolute favorite yet, but Shine Mittens by Sophia Capelli or Sophia Capel, I think are absolutely beautiful with Marianne's gorgeous mohair yarn. I mean, come on. I'm loving this. Okay, I have two neck accessories, if you will, that I think would work really well with Marianne's yarn. The first is the Kindred Cowl by Brianna Arlene. This is a really fantastic, very graphic color work cowl. Simple, not super deep, not very big, perfect for the amount of yarn that Marianne has. It requires sport weight yarn and it has two colors being used here. And I think one of those colors they're both spin cycle yarn. So you're going to have one that looks like it melds into different colors there. She says here that she uses 160 yards of the main color, which is great. That's plenty, or we have plenty here. And the contrasting color only uses 96 yards. So honestly, Marianne could even add a repeat if she wanted to, make it bigger somehow, do some deeper ribbing. She has some room with what she has to make this a little larger if she wants to. But how gorgeous is this cowl? It's got amazing Southwest vibes, which y'all know that I love. I really love the motif here. It has the sun kind of like that. It has like, it looks like it could be a flower motif. I don't know why I'm doing this. A flower motif in the middle, but it also kind of has that Santa Fe sun symbol, which I really love. It just gives me lots of really great Southwest vibes. It says here, design and construction. The Kindred Cowl is a tubular cowl worked in two color stranded color work. It's knit from the top down in the round with no shaping. The edges feature twisted rib. The cowl is designed to fit relatively close to the neck. If you would like a looser fit, you can cast on additional stitches in increments of 12 stitches, which may end up being something that Marianne would want to do, and she has the yarn to do that if she decides. And simply work more repeats of the color work chart. It's really very beautiful. Yeah, that's stunning. And I think that it would be great in Marianne's gorgeous mohair yarn, especially with that halo. I think the combination of the halo and the color work motif, it would kind of, I don't want to say blur. Well, no, it would like beautifully blur the edges, if you will. And I think it would be great. Okay, I have one more left. Now, I feel like this has a very similar vibe to the previous one, but I couldn't resist because it reminded me of Marianne's yarn as soon as I saw it. And it's also by Casey Herlihy, who's really great with knitting cowl designs or with knitted cowl designs. I love kind of the motifs that she comes up with for her color work cowls. They're gorgeous. This is called Static, and it is very graphic, and it has a very, I mean, if she's going for that like static look of something that's like a, I don't know, like a digital static symbol or something, like it's coming across. It's really neat. This uses sport weight yarn. It has two colors, as you can see here, and they're very contrasty, an obvious light and an obvious dark. And for the case of Marianne, she would be using her darker color as the main color with the lighter color being the contrasting color. And I think that it would be beautiful. It says, my mind has felt ecstatic lately, a constant mix of noise and radio silence, full of ideas yet unable to see them clearly. In order to focus, I set out to create a color work chart that not only visually represented how I was feeling, but also featured some of my favorite elements of color work: chevrons, straight lines, triangles, and playing with negative space. No long floats, keep the work simple and fun, perfect for any level of knitter. Combined with one of my favorite yarn bases from Sea Change Fibers, static is a reminder to take breaks, to listen to your body, and to enjoy the luxury of handmade. Included are instructions for both a short version and a tall version, which both can be made from the same 2 skeins. Keep them both or gift one. So she can make, Marianne has enough yarn here that she can make 2 of these, which would be great for gift giving season or for somebody special who you would feel good about giving something handmade in such a special yarn. I really love this. And I love kind of the story behind that too, because I totally understand that feeling and that sentiment. And this visual does kind of, maybe that's what it is I get the visual here. That chaotic, but yet organized, structured visual is really interesting. So I like the inspiration there. So that is Static by Casey Herlihy, a fantastic one for Marianne's natural colors and really high contrast yarn. Well, there you have it, folks. 5 beautiful patterns that would be fantastic knit up in Marianne's gorgeous 100% mohair yarn. Marianne, if you are watching, thank you so much for submitting your photos of your yarn to me and sharing the background behind the yarn and your thoughts and what you were hoping to kind of find in this process. I hope that this provides some inspiration, but whatever it is that you do with that yarn, let me know, and let me know if you would be okay with me sharing what it is that you do with that yarn here on the channel. And that goes for anybody who I have featured in previous videos. If you have used that yarn for something, whether it's something I suggested or something you found after the fact, please let us know the current status of that yarn so that I can share it in a future video of what should I make with this, perhaps at the tail end of the video, just to let people know that you are working with that really gorgeous yarn from your stash. Thank you all for taking the time to hang out with me today. I hope this provided some inspiration to you and that you enjoyed yourself and took value from today's video. And if you did, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. Definitely subscribe for more content. Click the bell so you can be notified anytime I upload new content, which is twice weekly. And don't forget to check out the Patreon to see if it is a place that is right for you. Any support you're willing to provide is greatly appreciated and really helps bolster the work that I do here at the Wool Needles Hands channel. Until I see you on next week's knitting update episode of the podcast, happy knitting, happy making, happy whatever it is that you're doing. Take care, be well, and I will see you soon. Bye.